On this episode of the Goal Line Fade, Brian and I said we wanted the Clippers, and the Mavs got the Clippers. This is the playoff preview special. Brian, let's play the music. Welcome to the Goal Line Fade, a Dallas sports podcast. Brian and I are here today, ready to rock and ready to talk Mavs basketball. I am Zach, your host, with my RB1 Brian, as always. Brian, what's shaking, my man?
Oh, another day. Play-in tournaments getting rolling. Day two of the play-in tournaments, right? Day two? Is it day two? Yeah, day two.
Yeah, it's a 4-day tournament.
Yeah,
is the way it works. So I didn't quite get it. I understood it a little bit. Like I knew that if you were the 7 and 8 seed, you had to lose 2 games to be eliminated, but I fully understand it now. For instance, last night the Celtics won, so they're now the 7 seed. The Wizards lost, so they play the winner of the other game, which was the Pacers. And the winner of that game's tomorrow. That team becomes the 8th seed and plays the Philadelphia 76ers, the other team. The Celtics now play the Nets, is how I understand it. So tonight, the winner of Golden State Lakers will be the 7th seed and play the Suns. And then the loser of this game will probably beat Memphis or San Antonio and be the 8th seed and play Utah, is what I would guess.
So. Yeah, I agree on all of your notions, and I think the Lakers will probably win it tonight. I say you never count out Steph, because that dude can easily go off for 50 or 60 any night. But it's probably going to be the Lakers, and that's fair enough.
I'm happy to not to cut you off. I'm happy to see Steph playing so awesome and the Warriors be back to being relevant. It was weird not having them good for a year, but I must say I enjoy the throwback of this league. I mean, Luka obviously is in the MVP discussion, won't get it. Steph is in the discussion. If they were a top 4 seed, I think he would get it. But the 2 frontrunners this year are Embiid and Jokic, so it's kind of cool that we're a little throwback there, man. When's the last time? I mean, Dirk and Duncan, are they the last big men to win the award?
Dwight Howard, did he ever get it?
I don't think so, man. Maybe, and maybe around the same time. And then other than that, it was all 90s when centers were getting,
Shaq in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
It's
that's pretty cool. Yeah,
it's definitely been a while. And they're playing center very differently than the centers we're talking about. It's absolutely a night day, but there's something to me about a dude who's 7 foot tall. I love that kind of basketball. I love seeing 7 foot dudes banging around the rim and fighting it out for rebounds and blocking shots. Late 90s basketball is still my favorite and always will be. So, anyway.
I agree completely. It's fun times. So as I said at the beginning, we're talking Mavs. This is what the focus is. Before we talk to that, I do want to just get a little personal with our listeners. I know that we're trying to build our base here, and Brian and I don't have a terrible amount of listeners yet, but this thing's been going. This is like our 7th episode, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So the object and the goal here is just to grow this thing and just have fun. And it's fun talking Mavs breakdown. And luckily we got lucky. The Mavs this weekend are going to have an early game, so we should actually be able to get a reaction done pretty well to it. So funny thing happened. I post I post our podcast on all social media that I can. Brian and I are terrible social media people, though. We really don't I'll retweet a little bit, but as far as coming up with my own internet content, not really a thing, right? I think that's more of a sign of our age and just not a willingness to learn it, probably, because my wife, she is the queen of, so her Instagram account, she gets trips. She's a travel agent. She gets trips from there, everything else. So it's interesting to me, but I can't seem to get a hang of it, But I do post our podcast on Instagram. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I can't seem to make myself give a fuck. I just can't. I've tried.
I can browse. I'll browse the Twitter all day long.
I will browse Twitter, especially when something interesting is going on. But I view Twitter, I don't view it as interactive. I view it like a digital newspaper, basically. You know,
well, you create who you follow. You know, like you're like me. I follow. You know, I'm a video game nut, so I'm following video game news, all sports news. You know me, I love my fantasy sports, so a lot of fantasy sports stuff as well. So for me, it's cool because I'm getting all these takes and extra information. Like I'm in the MFFL community, so there's so much Mav talk, you know, going on, good or bad. So that's cool to see the takes and everything else. For our listeners, if you hear anything, or if you're watching this on YouTube and you see me grimacing, my leg is dying right now. So we'll get into that in a second. But I'm trying my best to be awesome here. And yeah, so we try real hard. So Brian and I had I put the podcast on Instagram, right, with some hashtags, Dallas Sports Pod, everything else. So anywho, I think it was over the weekend I got a message from a company. I'm not going to say their name because we're not letting them be a sponsor. It's kind of not a scam per se, but they want us to purchase their product, then try it, then talk about it, and then they'll give us a coupon code. Brian and I believe money flows one way, and it should just be this way, right? You could send me a fleshlight and I'll talk about it. I have no problem. I'll promote the hell out of that thing, right? But it's kind of funny because naturally the first company that reached out to us for us to try a sponsorship was actually for a men's grooming tool. So for shaving your no-no zone. So that was pretty funny. And they're lost because, man, the ads I would have came up with for us were just going to be absolutely phenomenal.
It was going to be pure gold. It wouldn't have cost them very much money, like almost no money, and it would have been terrific. And granted, I will grant you that not a ton of people would have seen it, but the people that would have seen it would have thought it was spectacular. So,
can you just imagine the headway? Brian, did you watch the Mavs? In the Mavs game, did you see that smooth play that Luka did? Speaking of smooth, let's talk about my balls.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
Dude,
yeah, it would be lovely. But, you know, like you said, they're lost.
Yeah, they're lost. Not about that. And like I said, I'm with you. So we both had the same plan, which was good that we're on the same page there. But fun times. But I thought I would mention the story because I thought it was funny. I'm like, of course, it's not freaking like Dr. Squash soap or anything like that. It's fucking a ball groomer, and it's not the one we know about either. Everybody knows
it's not the good one. It's
not the good one. It's a upstart
one. Yeah.
So that happened, and it was fun. Besides that, man, I don't know what happened Sunday. I woke up. I had a sharp pain in my leg.
Yeah.
And it's like a sciatic nerve issue, dude. And I swear, like, imagine you were getting stabbed in the leg with a knife and someone was twisting it. That's the pain that I get when I'm sitting down, right? Over the last 3 days, it has moved to where now it's entirely in my calf. I went to a chiropractor, did everything else. But the problem with the calf thing is it feels completely like a Charlie horse, dude.
Oh,
like, imagine a Charlie, but it's that way all the time when I'm sitting down. So like when I drive to work, when I drove to work today, I almost died because I'm sitting here grimacing. Like for this, you can watch me if you're on YouTube right now. I'm driving like, I'm trying to find an angle to fit my leg because it's my left leg to where it's not bent that way. There's no way in my Challenger, period.
Which for the people who don't know you, you're not a short man. So I'm sure your legs are already kind of bent and there's no way to straighten your leg in a car.
Yeah, I'm
6'3". Don't drive a giant car either. So
yeah, no, I'm 6'3". I'm in a Challenger, which is surprisingly roomy in the front seat, but it's still not what I need. So I try to tough it out. The only time I feel good is when I'm standing still. Like on Monday and Tuesday at work, I would just stand a lot and we type a lot at my job. So I would kind of just bend over and use the keyboard, then kind of back up, right? I could sit for about 2 or 3 minute bursts before the pain just gets excruciating, right? Well, today it's because it's in my calf mainly. Even when I was bending over to try to type, it's straining it. So it was just like bringing tears to my eye, right? So I asked my boss if I could come home and work. So I did. So I laid in bed and I feel way better right now. Obviously I'm sitting doing the podcast. So I've got ice on the back right now, which is helping. I can only keep it on for 20 minutes. So in 4 minutes, I got to take it off. So any of you YouTubers, if you're staring at my crotch in a minute while I'm standing, I apologize. But I might have to stand and pick up the laptop or whatever. Listeners, no mind to you. It's fine. I'll sound the same. So whatever happens.
Just out of curiosity, what did they say it was when you went to the doc?
Well, when I went to the chiropractor, he popped my hip and said my hip was misaligned a little bit. Told me to stop wearing wallet in my pocket. And he said that other than that, I'm fine. He said it's just a tendon strain. He said it should be fine by Friday. And gosh, I hope he's right, because you go on the internet and you start Googling pains, and they're all death.
Oh,
they're
yeah.
all
No,
you're dying. Your
You'll
legs
end up in a
fall
rabbit
off.
hole having a full-blown panic attack over nothing.
Yeah, so we'll see. But like I said, the laying down helped out tremendously. Worst case scenario, I just call my company and see if they can let me work from home again the rest of the week or tomorrow. I can do my job from home. Luckily, it's more of a they don't want me to do it from home than it is the ability to not be successful. So hopefully I can, if I have a lot of pain in the morning, because driving it's pretty dangerous, dude. When you're hurting that bad and you're driving in morning traffic and trying to get to work on time, that's.
One last question on your leg, and then we'll move on. Which leg is it?
It's my left leg.
Your left leg. That sucks, because I'm sure you remember when I blew my foot up around the 4th of July.
Oh, I do. Yeah. That's when things started working back together again.
Yeah. Back then, I would have.
I'm glad your dogs are sympathetic towards my leg pain. They're giving me.
They're going ape shit. It's because my wife's not at home. She's at the gym right now, and Amazon just dropped a package off, and they hear the bloop bloop, and they go fucking bananas.
That's fine, man. We record this podcast live. That's what I dig about us. We're like the news or like a radio show. Even though there's the power to edit, we like to keep it. We like to keep it live, interactive. You'll 100. See my Lulu, my little wiener dog, running, get in the screen every now and then. That's kind of the image we like to portray. That's kind of our mantra here. So continue with your foot story.
I was just going to say that I would have to drape it over the center console, because I had to keep it elevated the whole time. So I would literally just drape it over the center console. And I was thinking you could do that and keep your leg straight, because bending it is the problem, but not going to work for you. So never mind.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I can't, like if I'm sitting down, like my right leg, I can lift completely out. Fine. My left leg is about not even 50% is how much I can raise it. It's insane. And I really can't, because of my length. It's hard to stretch it out when I sit down too. So whatever, it is what it is. So anywho, anything else you got? Or are you ready to start talking Mavs, man?
Let's talk some Mavericks, man. Let's talk some.
Okay, perfect. So Brian and we talked about the Mavs. They got the 5 seed, which is very impressive. Let's just take a step back real fast to say.
On that note, I called that. I called that on our very first episode.
You did. I said 4 seed. I said between 4 and 6. I was feeling 4, and then you said 5 seed. So
I said the 5 seed. It didn't go the way I said it was going to, because I thought it was going to be the Nuggets that crashed. And
we called the Lakers falling down too, didn't we?
Yes, absolutely. So
that was beautiful. Beautiful. No, that was like our intro first pod too.
Yeah.
So it went down, and we're in year 3 of Luka. First year, obviously, they were teetering until they traded for KP with being a borderline playoff team. They were going to be like the 10th or 9th seed, maybe sneak in and get 8th. Probably not, but they traded everyone at the trade deadline, right?
Yeah.
Year 2 in the playoffs. And then here we go now, we're the 5th seed. That's big time progress. So I know that people want championships. I know a lot of people don't really understand in the NBA how the team building works, but there's a process to it a lot of times. We're in the NBA right now where it's so easy to build a super team. And that's what we've seen the last 10 or 15 years. So you see like the Miami Heat go from championship to not good to back to being championship again, because now LeBron and Chris Bosh are there, right? Or you see the Celtics all of a sudden get Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen. So some people see that happen and know that it's possible, but the sustained championship, like the Warriors, they build that thing. What were you going to say?
I was going to say even the teams like, for example, Miami, they won championships with Shaq, or a championship.
Shaq and Wade.
Yeah, and Dwayne Wade. And then they took a dip when Shaq left or got old or all, etc. But even that whole time, when they were bad, they were still making the playoffs most years. They were just a low seed. And so it seemed like they went from championship in 06 to gone and then right back to championship. But that's not true. Dwayne Wade was carrying them to the playoffs all those years. The Warriors, when KD got over there, they went and absolutely batshit crazy and were winning like crazy, but they had won a championship the year before. They were in the playoffs the year, multiple times before that. Like you said, it builds. It's not something, even super teams most of the time don't happen overnight.
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me, but I want to say that it was the 4th year of Curry was whenever they made, I believe I want to say they won a playoff series their 3rd year though. And then I think the 4th year was when they advanced. If I'm not mistaken, it was either, maybe I'm a season off there, but I know the Warriors did it right. And I know Mark Jackson, which I didn't agree at the time when they fired him. I thought he was a great coach, but Kerr was clearly the right answer for the, where that team went and what they're doing now,
Yeah, no doubt about it. So it was the 6th year of Steph Curry when they won their first championship. He was drafted.
Yeah. Okay. So that was 1 year off. Yeah.
Yeah. He was drafted in 2009 and they won their first one in 2015. So
and then won their first playoff series. Was it year 4 or 5? Can you tell that from the data you're looking at?
I'm checking that right now. Hey, sorry, fucking going crazy. Lockout year, yes. In the 2013-2014, they won their first playoff series.
Okay, so it's a buildup sometimes. Now I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm not focused on this. Is not a what's going to happen free agent. We're focused on the now. So ESPN had 15 analysts break down this game, each series, right? And they think that the Clippers are going to win. The consensus is 5 or 6 games Clippers win. One person who works for ESPN picked the Mavs. One person who works for NBA.com that I see so far picked the Mavs. A lot of people might be doing their picks on Saturday once the complete tournament's set. So now, as far as what I feel about the series and what I feel about what the Mavs are going to be able to do is, first off, the Mavs won the season series with the Clippers 3-1. We had a 50-point shellacking at the very beginning of the season. That was without KP. If I remember correctly, they also did not have Paul George.
No, they didn't have Kawhi.
They didn't have Kawhi. That's what it was. Yes, and we didn't have KP. Yeah. The second game we played, they beat us. It was actually a back-to-back, right? Yeah. They beat us, and we got dominated in the paint. Kawhi did his mid-range thing that he's so freaking good at. And then the third game, this is why no homerish, I'm saying Mavs in 6.
Me too.
Mavs in 6.
That's me.
And this is why I'm saying it. I watched what he did on that second game after they lost for the game 3 of the series, which was the rubber match to determine who won the series. I watched what he did to combat how they beat us. And he adjusts better than anything. I don't think Ty Lue is a very good coach. I think the Clippers are a better team. I think Kawhi is, with LeBron and Curry, is probably the top 5 players in the league, 2 or 3 of the top. But I do think, I really, really do, that Rick Carl makes the adjustments. And some of the adjustments that I want to talk about real quick, and then I'll give the floor to you, that he did was, number one, we got destroyed by Zubac. I'm a big fan of Zubac, honestly, right? He's not really a today's NBA center. He can't play a whole lot, but he gets done what he needs to get done. In game 2, he destroyed us with offensive rebounds and dunks. Yeah, and what did we do? How do we fix that, Brian?
Sorry.
What's up?
Go ahead.
Cool. And how we fixed that was Willie Cauley-Stein. We put him in, and Willie had one job. Zubac is a double hand grabber. Okay, so for those of you who are watching this on YouTube or not, he basically, when he gets the ball into the basket, he gets both hands and he grabs the ball. Okay, and then literally it's one move, jump, dunk, right? So Willie Cauley-Stein's one job, I don't care if you foul him or not, slap that freaking ball every time. So Willie Cauley-Stein, just as soon as he gets it, boom, strip, boom, strip, boom, strip. And because he does the ball with the 2 hands, it's way easier to knock it out, as opposed to a shot where you have a foul, you could hit the thumb, hit the wrist, and cause that. And then Kleba, who, man, has been playing bad basketball the last month. So I'm intrigued to see how we use him. Kleba shadowed Kawhi Leonard the entire game. And just all he did, hands in the face, dude. Hand in the face the whole entire time. And it was masterful. We let Paul George do his thing. We just, put some defenders on him, whether it was Tim Hardaway. I did like when Awundu's no longer on the team, but he did do a good job in the end of the 3rd, beginning of the 4th on Paul George. So that's going to be an intriguing matchup right there. So what are your thoughts on everything right now?
My thoughts are I agree with everything you said. Zubac is a terrible matchup for us unless I'll put it if as long as Willie can play similarly without getting in foul trouble, then even then I'm still okay with it because the Clippers are the best 3-point shooting team in the league.
Yeah, 40%.
Yeah. They've got 5 guys who shoot over 40% from 3. Another one, there's 6. I can't remember who it is, but there's someone who comes off their bench that shoots almost 40%. It's like 39.7.
Is that Reggie Jackson or is it Kennard? One of the two, I believe.
It's old man. What's his name? Old point guard.
Patrick Beverly?
No, it's not Patrick Beverly. It'll come to me in just a minute.
Okay, yeah, keep rolling.
But it's like Zubac scares me, but not nearly as much as if they get hot shooting threes. So if I'm fine if they're going to feed it down low to Zubac a lot, and if Kawhi is going to be forced to take mid-range jumpers as opposed to 3-point stuff, because if you let him, he'll do mid-range stuff all day long because that's his bread and butter.
Sure.
I think I'd like to see Dodo on Paul George a lot.
Oh yeah.
He'll
be on Kawhi too.
Yeah. And interchange a lot. I think we're going to see offensively. I think we're going to see a lot of switching, where they're trying to get Beverly. They're going to do some switches where
they got the defensive point guard gauntlet to throw at Luka. I tell you that.
They do,
including Kawhi too.
Yeah, they do. But I'd be perfectly fine. Not perfectly fine, but I'd be happier with Beverly or some of their defensive point guards guarding Luka as opposed to Kawhi or even Paul George, because they've got all that length, all that size, and they can still hang with him speed-wise. So I think they're going to do a lot to try to get Beverly on him and the other point guards.
Well, you know what Rick's going to do? Rick's smart. If they have the point guards on him a lot, which they're going to do a lot of switches where I think Luka ends up posting him up.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I'd like to see, and he's got a clear advantage there. So I'm intrigued to see how the Clippers would respond to that, because Luka will body them completely.
And what's great is, last year in the playoff series, and this guy catches a lot of flack, but Dwight Powell, we didn't have Dwight Powell.
Right.
And
or
there's
Brunson.
a lot of things that he's not great at, right? The thing that he is the best at, and one of the best in the entire league, is being the roll man, especially if Luka is gonna be on a smaller guard and body them and take them down and post them up. A big man is at some point, a lot of the time, going to come over to double team Luka, and as soon as that happens, he's going to dish it to Dwight Powell, and you're going to see him just cutting straight to the rim. You're going to see a lot of free run.
Yeah.
With Dwight Powell.
I'm glad you brought up Dwight Powell. I actually listened to Porzingis do his press conference earlier today while I was at the gym, because I'm still trying to work out for some crazy reason. My leg's about to fall off because I don't have much pain when I stand, but that's another story. So we haven't had a lot of Porzingis the last month at all, right? Really haven't had a lot of Porzingis all season long. But one thing, there's 2 players, in my opinion, besides Dorian Finney-Smith, who I've just been absolutely in love with. That's my Mavs Bay recently. Just love the way he plays. But, Josh Green and Dwight Powell over the last month of the season really came into their own. Okay. And one thing about that Porzingis talked about Dwight Powell. And Porzingis talked about how this week, what their focus on practice is how well they're going to play together, what they need to do and get more comfortable with each other, because they haven't really played a lot together, especially because Powell, a lot of times when Porzingis was playing, it was Porzingis and Kleba, and Powell was out of the rotation for that middle of the season run. And Powell's been very much in the rotation. And you and I actually spoke about that on our podcast a few episodes ago. And we talked about with Dwight Powell's emergence, what is that going to mean when Porzingis plays? Is it going to work? So that really pumps me up that he acknowledges it and that they're really working on that, because man, Dwight Powell is an engine in this offense.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean he can start for any other NBA teams? Does that mean he's a great player? We're not getting in that discussion. I know one thing, that Josh Green and Dwight Powell, those two dudes are like, have the Dennis Rodman gene, dude. They hustle. Yeah, they hustle, and they hustle again to the ball. And that's what you're going to need against a team like the Clippers. This will be, in my opinion, the most chippy. There we go. Samsonite. I was way off, man. No, this is going to be the most chippy series, I think. Period. The other matchups, Suns and Lakers. If the Lakers win tonight, playoffs happen. You're in a series, obviously. Some of that's, but there's bad blood with these teams from last year already. I think the Mavs feel like if they had Powell, they had Brunson, and Porzingis doesn't get injured, or hell, even kicked out one of those games, that's a 7-game series and all bets are off in a game 7, right? So I think that they're coming in with a lot of swagger that normally you don't have when you're the underdog.
Especially they're the biggest underdog of any team in the playoffs.
Right. Vegas has them favored to lose by 7.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's growing. It was 5 yesterday. It's ridiculous. And that's fine. I like that. That they're the underdog, because it's just more bulletin board material. I think, I mean, truthfully, at the end of the day, obviously it's going to come down to Luka, of course, but I think the big deciding factor is which we've seen a bunch of different versions of KP this year, right? And again, just like with Dwight Powell, we can get dragged down into a conversation of whether or not KP is a legitimate number 2. Is this ever going to work long term? Blah, blah, blah. But all of that's irrelevant for right now, because the only thing that really matters is which KP do we get in this playoff series? Can he stay healthy enough to play the majority of the games without being on a huge minutes limitation during any of the games? And how well does he play? Not just offensively, but defensively, because last year in the bubble when things were clicking, he was much better defensively than what we've seen this year. And I think if we can get something similar to what we were getting before he got hurt in the playoffs last year, then I think we can take this in 6.
Well, he's a matchup nightmare for them. He was last year, even more so this year. And that's going to force him to not play Zubac a whole lot if he's in the rhythm and doing well, which is a good thing for the Mavs. Because remember, there's no Montrezl Harrell. They have Nick Batum and the Morris brother, right? And the Morris brother does do very well in the playoffs, not even going to lie. And now they also have our number 1 enemy of the state. Rondo is on their freaking team.
Yeah.
Don't get me started on that. So I'm going to come up with I have an offensive X factor for the series. Okay. I think that this person, if they continue on the role that they've been on, I think things are going to go very, very handsomely well the first 2 games in LA. Okay. They say a series doesn't start until a road team wins, right? This is the old cliche.
Sure.
If Tim Hardaway continues to play at the clip that he's been at this last month, on top of everything else we have going with us, the emergence of Josh Green, Josh Powell, that's a lot, but that's one of the keys right there. If you can legit have a guy that's scoring 25 or 30 and he's the third option because KP's doing his thing and Luka are doing theirs, they're going to win one of the 2 games in LA.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Look, I mean, at the end of the day, if he's scoring 18 plus and you're getting legitimate basketball from Luka and from KP, that's almost impossible to beat. I mean, really, that's almost impossible, because you're talking about 3 guys that are scoring 20 plus. KP at that point is going to be getting 8 plus rebounds and 2 or 3 assists, and Luka's going to have probably a 30-point triple double. In all likelihood, that's just that by itself from that's hard to beat for anybody.
And Hardaway is in a contract year, and whether he stays a Mav or is signed by someone else, this series is going to tell a lot, in my opinion, for how much money he can get. I think right now he could probably get about 20 to 22 on the open market because of what he did in the year as being a good piece for any team. I think if in nut up or shut up playoff time, you play at that level, because it all slows down in the playoff time, right?
Yeah.
If he can continue at that level, I'm thinking 22 to 26 is probably what that guy's going to demand if he's able to continue, because he's not a real physical player. He's a shooter. He's a specialist and not a great defender. But if he comes in and hustles and is able to be hot and do that, I think that he's a very intriguing player for me to watch right now, because he was not good in the playoff series last year. I mean, he was okay, but not one of the things. But like I said, we've got Brunson, we have Powell, and we have Porzingis, we think. We'll see. We'll see if it lasts the whole series. But as of right now, we have Porzingis. So are there any other X factors on offense that you think?
I don't know if I would go as far as to call him an X factor, but I do think that because of what you're asking him to, what his primary responsibility is, and this is your guy, and that's Dodo, right? His primarily, he's a 3-and-D guy, but if you had to pick one, it's D, right? He's on the court for spacing and for defense and for hustle. And he's going to have the tough task of, he's going to be on Paul George, or he's going to be on Kawhi, a significant portion of his time on the floor. So anything beyond 5 points from him, I think is house money, right? But I think one of the first two games, I think if you can get, I'm not even going crazy, just 12, if you could get 10 or 12 from him on the road in LA, that goes a long way to help cover up because I don't think I'm with you on Hardaway. I don't think it's going to be game one, right? Because he was so cold against Minnesota. He was so just not great the last game of the year. So maybe that'll force him to turn it around. I don't know. But I think if in the event that he is still cold, getting 10, 12 points from Dodo will go a long way to make up for that.
Speaking of cold, Memphis is up 25-6 right now.
Good Lord.
San Antonio. The same thing. The other early game yesterday was bullshit too. Did you see that? It was a 40-point. Charlotte got embarrassed. So, woo.
I mean, that's like the play-in's cool, but at the end of the day, there usually is a pretty big gap between the 7 seed and the 10 seed. It's usually a pretty big gap in quality.
The only time that it's not would be like if the Lakers for some weird reason would have been without LeBron and AD for like 2 more weeks, and they were like the 9 or 10 seed and they're all back now. Like that would be a different caveat, But
sure.
it's woo. Yeah, so Memphis. Do you think Memphis in a 1-game series could beat the Lakers or Golden State? I don't think so.
I don't think they could beat the Lakers. They might. Again, it's if Steph is cold, which doesn't happen all that often, but if Steph was cold and Ja got crazy hot, maybe. I don't think so with the Lakers. I think the Lakers.
I like watching Ja. I like him.
Ja's a lot of fun. The Lakers, I think, are, the truth is the Lakers are going to be probably the 7th seed. And it's going to be the first time in history that a 7 seed is favored over the 2 seed in the history of the league, and it also wouldn't surprise me if the 7 seed swept the 2, in this case, because they're the 7 seed, but they are the best team.
Yeah, I'm not betting against LeBron. Tom Brady and LeBron are 2 guys you don't bet against, man, until you see it, and then you're wrong. Like I couldn't do it. Couldn't do it at all.
No, not at all.
So back to Mavs. So, man, I cannot believe we won the season series. This feels like Miami all over again. Remember, we beat Miami 2-0 in 2011. And we were not favored to do anything. We had an improbable playoff run, and then we beat them. Rick Carlisle, like, as much as people bitch and complain, and there's been a lot of it this year, Rick Carlisle is the key as far as the X's and O's to what's going to happen. Now, I will say this. I am worried about game 1. And I do not think the Mavs are going to win game 1. I think they're going to win the series, and I think they're going to win in 6. But this is the first time Carlisle is going to have the complete team in how long?
That's God. I don't even. It's a long time. I don't even know how long, but it's a long time.
And if you look at Carlisle's track record for beginnings of the year, he struggles as a coach the first 3 to 8 games. And the reason why is he's figuring out his rotations. He's figuring out what guy, okay, when do I need to take Luka out? Now he's figured that out. He knows at the 6-minute mark, okay, Luka, you're on the bench. He's got that. So I'm not worried about that aspect. But when are you putting Dodo on the bench? Are you giving Josh Green meaningful minutes? Because we know the benches shrink in the playoffs. You're running a lot of times 9 and 10 man rotations as opposed to the 12.
Well, and I think a lot of it's also going to be at the 4 and the 5 spot, the confusion there, right? Are you playing Porzingis at the 5? If so, you playing Maxey when Willie's in, Dwight, the entire 4-5, who's playing, what matchups work, because there's been, like you said, Maxey hasn't been playing great, but I think we would both agree that if we're going to win this series, Maxey's going to have to play, at least he's not going to have to be the reason, but he can't play like total shit.
He needs to come in and make shots and play good defense on Kawhi like he did. One thing I'm intrigued with as well is, we talk about, matchups and what they're going to exploit and what they're going to do. I'm intrigued because if I'm the Mavs, I think I up the pace in this series and I force the Clippers' hand where they don't have Zubac, because they don't have enough. Cousins and Zubac can't play fast.
No, not at
right. All. So if we dictate that with a fast-paced gameplay and I think that's going to work into our advantage so greatly.
Well, plus just the way the Clippers play in general, aside from the fact that they have 2 old school big men, is they are a half-court team. Like, that is their thing. They're one of the slower teams in the entire league that just plays that grind it, slow it down, play half court. And I think, I agree with you. Not to reference them twice in 2 weeks, but I don't think we need to be trying to play the 7 seconds or less Phoenix Suns game, but moving the ball down the court, speeding things up, especially in certain times with certain matchups. Absolutely.
I agree. Yeah, force them. We don't want what happened with the Warriors years ago, where we were changing in 07 to what they were doing, even though we won 67 games. I still, to my life, don't understand that. And Ty Lue is not a great coach, so he'll break. Rick Carlisle can break him and get in his head.
Yeah, I agree.
He's a good coach.
No, and
he's not. If it was Doc Rivers, I'd be more worried.
Yeah, no, and look, to give him credit, the one thing that I can say that he did, Ty Lue, that is he got them shooting more threes. He saw the strength that they had. They're a significantly better 3-point shooting team this year than they were last year, and they shoot significantly more 3-point shots than they did last year. And so I don't know if that's entirely him, but part of it is him at least. And so I'll give him credit for that. But I'm with you 100%. If playoff series were won on head coaching alone, then this would be a sweep.
So one last thing, and then we'll close out. Okay. As far as the Clippers go, who is the key, do you think, on LA? Because I have mine. I'm interested. I want you to go first. Who do you think is the key for them to win the series versus us?
Paul George.
Yeah, the same. Because, and he has so much.
Playoff Paul.
Playoff P, right? He has never been good in the playoffs. He's not that guy. He was awful last year. He knows it. He's heard him talk about it. He's gonna come out really trying. And I'm under the mind, hey, just try to contain him a little bit. If that dude's averaging like 35 points a game this series, they're gonna be very, 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 very hard to.
Because look, Kawhi is one of those players, like you said earlier, Kawhi is unstoppable. You can't stop Kawhi. You just try to contain him as best you can. And you try to make him work hard for it. So he's at least exhausted on the defensive end. Right. Paul gets in his own head. Paul George gets in his own head, and he steps on his own dick every chance he gets in the playoffs.
Right.
And I think it's going to come down to the first 8 minutes, 7 minutes of game one is going to determine how he's doing. If he bricks first couple of shots, I think we're good to go as far as that goes. But if he comes out first, if they're smart, if Ty Lue is smart,
they're going to feed him the rock.
They're going to feed him the rock. Possession one right off the bat. Let him drain. Where I don't know Paul George's game well enough to say where his spots are, right? But wherever his spots are, draw up a play to get him a nice clean look in his favorite spot, and let him drain one. Possession or two later, let him drain another one, and let him just get comfortable. And if that happens, then the Mavs are in for a very long night and a very long series. And
they can still, and hey, Porzingis and Luka are capable of scoring just as many points combined, if not more, than those two, and vice versa, depending on how streaks are going. So it is a duo. Yeah. I know it's a better duo on the Clippers if Paul George is Paul George. And we'll see. I mean, so far his track record is not there. I know he knows it, and I know they know it, and they're going to design plays for him for sure.
Here's the thing, man. If playoff P shows up, and then I'll take our duo over theirs.
Oh, sure.
If playoff P shows up, their team overall is better than ours. But if Paul George is going to do what he normally does, then I'll take Luka and KP, and let's just cross our fingers that Hardaway gets hot.
Yeah. Oof. That's going to be a very, very fun chess match. That's for sure.
Yes, indeed.
Well, I'm standing with it, man. I'm saying Mavs in 6.
I'm with you.
I think Mavs win. I think Mavs win 2. And I'm a firm believer. I don't know why, but I always think the winner of game 3 takes the series. I think the Mavs win games 2 and 3, and they lose games 1 and 4, and then they close out and win the next 2.
I am actually in 100% agreement with you.
All right.
Across the board.
All right. I like it. Was there anything else you want to add? My leg's about to fall off. I need to stand up. So
no, fuck the Clippers. Let's go. That's all I got.
Yes. Yeah.
And somebody, I don't care who it is, but somebody needs to put Morris on his ass.
Yeah, dude. I think it's going to be Dorian Finney-Smith.
I hope so.
They remember. Yeah. It's going to be fun. I'm so hyped, man. I love playoff. I love all playoffs. It's a damn shame the Stars are in the playoff this year because, man, playoff hockey, talking about it and watch it is so fun, dude.
It's a blast.
We don't pride ourselves. We know much about hockey. We know a little bit more about baseball than we do hockey, right?
Yeah,
but playoff hockey is just next level awesome, dude.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I don't know shit about it, but it's a lot of fun to watch.
I know a little bit more. We could have good conversations about it. I'm excited for when the season starts next year to kind of work a little Stars into it and kind of. I do think they're going to rebound nicely and see what they do. We'll talk about their offseason stuff also, but that's it, man. This is the Goal Line Fade. As always, thank you guys so much for listening. This was a shorter pod than normal because we just want to talk Mavs. There's not really much to talk about right now. The next pod we do will be a breakdown of what happened game 1. And then we'll probably, if we record Monday this week, that's probably game 2. Do we know that yet?
They don't know yet. It's either going to be Monday or Tuesday, but they don't know which. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, that's it for the Goal Line Fade. I am Zach, and I am out.
I'm Brian. We are out.
Yes. All right, bye.